Maddie moved to a new house about 5 years ago. And for some reason, his son, who was about 6 months old at the time, would wake up choking every morning. Absolutely no history of any breathing diseases in the family, no indicators, nothing. He would just wake up blue in the face every morning. No one had any idea why. By the time they got to the pediatrician, the child was okay. On weekends, when they visited Maddie's parents, the child was okay. They went out of town, the kid was okay. It was only at 6 a.m. at that house that this problem existed. So Maddie's basically a data scientist, and scientists question everything, as is their wont. And he realized that the nearest air quality monitor was about 13 kilometers away. He hacked together a little sensor and did a data download over a couple of days. He stuck it on the roof of his car and he drove around the neighborhood creating a heat map in the morning. So the entire neighborhood was being blanketed with very high levels of particulate matter and other gases. And adults would obviously wake up with an itchy throat and, rubbing their eyes, but that's about it. Maybe you'd cough a couple of times or you'd sneeze. But infants with almost no immunity were really suffering. So then we started to build data around this and thought that maybe this could be a business. That's when we came together as a team. We spent about 3 years doing this. We have some pretty advanced artificial intelligence. It's constantly ranked it's as the best in the world. We understand that there are various ways to affect and improve people's lives. So there are the completely commercial ways. You could use this data to build a better product as a private company or as a business. For example, you could sell homes saying that they're located in a cleaner area. And most people buy a home as an investment over 25 years. So obviously you want your children to grow up in a much cleaner, safer environment. Because as we all know, a very small amount of air pollution, I'm talking 5-10 micrograms per cubic meter, which is under the EU safe limit, can still have a massive impact on long-term cancer rates. This data is used by drug makers and therapeutics companies to understand how interventions can be positioned better when people need the use of smart inhalers for asthma, when people need a certain drug, at what season, at what time, how it interacts with their environment. We've built insurance products. In fact, we have the world's first air pollution linked insurance product currently awaiting regulatory approval before it goes to market. That's the private side. But if you imagine the NHS in the UK spends about 22 billion pounds a year on breathing diseases. Now, by any reckoning, about half of those diseases and the cost burden associated with them are preventable. I mean, you have advanced lung cancer, which is palliative care, but you also have asthma. You also have COPD triggers. You have that little girl, Deborah, I think her name was, that passed away in London, around near the orbital, the world's first recognized case of death by air pollution. If you have data on areas that are polluted, the local NHS catchment area can take action through either your city councillor or your mayor or any form of government. You can change zoning laws, you can change traffic timings, you can change school timings, and all of this can have a measurable impact on public health. And suddenly you're saving the NHS a couple of billion quid a year. We've seen cities interested in our data because we're able to now predict forest fires before the first satellites are. That could potentially save you billions in damages in a place like California or Seattle or Australia. It could give you the opportunity to evacuate people 1 hour earlier, saving lives. And I mean, all the billions of dollars that you talk about are not worth a percentage of a human life. Can you think of a place where you can get consolidated greenhouse gas emissions for every borough in London? You can't. It's just, there is just not enough clarity on anything to do with the environment. We want to be the people putting everything into solid metrics, into data that you can access whoever you are, whether you're writing an article, whether you're a high school researcher, whether you're formulating public policy, you're building a better business. It should be available to you just like Wikipedia is available to everyone.
We take a multimodal approach to solving this problem. The first problem is that there isn't enough data itself. And the second part is that this data is to be accessible, insightful, actionable, well formatted, and very scientific, relevant, something that is provable in terms of accuracy and complies with local regulation and standards. While everybody in the world were applying geospatial algorithms using a sensor-based data, we applied a completely comprehensive approach. We started looking at correlations with air quality and population density growth over the last 20 years. And that means 20 years of air quality data, 20 years of population density, and the changes in the vegetation index in that area. So we started studying that. Then we started looking at traffic, which is all the emission sources. Well, there are three largest type of emissions: buildings, transportation, and industries. And then we started extrapolating that to the entire city and bringing meteorological influences like wind direction, wind gust, and how does temperature and humidity influence a reaction between the carbon monoxide and the SOx and NOxes to create visibility problems, or how particulate matter and greenhouse gases combine to increase apparent temperature in that area, and how the pollution disperses when they combine together, and when the wind goes into what locations and areas they do disperse. All of these are AI. This is handled by AI that we developed completely proprietary. What we have in production is a 5 square kilometer granularity of air quality data near real time, which is almost every hour. But we could get to every 15 minutes and every meter, every square meter, that's every second step of the way, and tell you what you're breathing, how's your environment like, what's the kind of livability, how your health is going to be.
There is a lot of open source data that you could possibly access. So if you look at the European Space Agency's Tropomi satellite, it's a great example. There are a bunch of them. So NASA has one, ESA has one, the we have one as well. Right. The problem with all of these is their resolution is quite horrible. The best so far is the ESA, and they do about 25 square kilometers. But you don't know the difference between, say, Oxford Street and Regent Street on the other end. Then we realized that we have a sort of home court advantage in India because it's very heterogeneous in terms of pollution. Some average Joe is burning garbage in one corner on one street. There's a diesel generator running for a hotel on another side. Yeah. So it's not homogeneous, unlike most other cities in the world. Yeah. So we were able to put up a network of sensors in Indian cities. So we put up 100 in our city in Bangalore. We put up 100 in a few other cities. What this enabled us to do was the basic AI model that we had was able to continuously calibrate itself for a couple of years against on-the-ground sensors.
So there's a lot of on-ground sensor data, multiple satellites. Some of them are open, so well, the majority of them is also paid data. Even data that we use to feature engineer or otherwise build more comparable patterns like the vegetation index or human activities or topographical changes, land cover, land use, is also coming from some other satellites. And on combining on-ground sensors and all that correlates it with, we're able to provide way better data. So we're always above 80 to a 90% range in terms of accuracy across the world. And we're constantly correcting, self-improving and learning machines across the world, tracking data for over 100 countries. And we're down to a small size now. It's very plug and play, modular, cost-effective, scalable across an entire city for a very small amount. And also maintenance free, and they're low energy, they work for a long time.
A lot of them are talking about getting a mobile application for all the citizens of that city to inform them about various things, including the quality of the environment. This is not something that is of interest to a single geography. This is a worldwide problem. If you look at climate, if you look at carbon pricing, if you look at air quality, these are all problems across the world.